Hey everyone. I know it's been a little bit since I uploaded like one of my main videos to my YouTube channel other than my shorts that I try to upload as much as I can. It's because of two things. Mostly and mainly and most importantly was because last month I lost my last grandmother. She came up from Florida to move back up here to Kentucky because she was going through some things that I won't get into here, and I really couldn't focus on anything else for a while besides that. And it's something that me and everyone else is going to be really always struggle with because we really loved her, and of course we're gonna miss her. It's something that I don't. It's something that you try to understand and live with. It's just something you never get over. But no, that was. It's she's I still think about her, and it was just during the month. It was so hard not to think of anything else besides her and her memory. The other thing was I got to a far lesser note was I got COVID, and that was a whole ordeal that was not fun, but that's, like I said, less importance. But I just thought I should give a little explanation before this video the actual video starts. But just thought, like I said, should add this in. But I hope you all enjoy the video.
Hey everyone, it's Megan, and of course, you know my friend Nate. Today, we are going to be discussing the recent Kung Fu Panda 4 movie. Both of us we're looking forward to this movie for a while. We're both fans of the franchise, and we had certain hopes and theories about this film, and we're going to be discussing how the film was, our personal thoughts on it, and everything that's tied with that. Thank you for
Spoiler
joining.
warning.
And spoiler warning. Yes, thank you again for joining me, Nate.
Oh boy, this is going to be a rough one. I hope this isn't the first film we disagree on.
It's Kung Fu Panda 4. I mean, like I said, I was looking forward to this movie for a while. There was some things in it, that I had like certain hopes about and everything with certain characters and plot points and everything. And there was some good and some okay stuff in it. Uh, what about you, Nate? What were your thoughts coming into the movie?
I'm going to have to address the franchise as a whole real quick to give my
Mhm.
opinion on this, leading into Kung Fu Panda 4.
Yeah.
Saw the first one in theaters. I was actually in Pennsylvania visiting family when I saw that one, so I got ticket to the movies. Really enjoyed it, had a good time. That's just me being a dumb sixth grader. I was 12 when this movie came out, so I liked it. Kung Fu Panda 2, I didn't see in theaters. I think I saw it years later. We either rented the DVD or it was streaming.
Hmm.
Love Kung Fu Panda 2, one of my top 10, if not top 5 animated films of all time. Had the best villain of the series. He had Gary Oldman voicing Lord Shen, who is one of my top 5 favorite actors. I love Gary Oldman. Most work he touches is gold.
Yeah, Shin was the best villain in the franchise. And
Kung
the
Fu Panda. Oh,
Go ahead.
no, you first. I interrupted.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I agree with you. Shin is probably the best just villain, straight up villain in the franchise. Uh, not He's admittedly as you know we've talked about it, as as a character I prefer Tai Lung, but as a straight up bad guy, Shin is the best.
Shen also had a very good backstory.
Oh yeah, I don't deny that.
And then we get to Kai, who I think a lot of people are split on this villain. I know my friend William in particular really hates Kai, so he'd give you more opinions on that in different topics. But I think Kai, no disrespect to J.K. Simmons, who did the voice, he's clearly giving it everything he had, and he
Oh
has
yeah.
his good moments. Clearly inspired by Kratos. I mean, we put a picture up from God of War 3 versus Kai from that. You can clearly see the influence from God of War.
Yeah, I think Kai had a lot of potential. It was just his story and his motivations were really his goal of wanting to steal chi and everything was like really underdeveloped. He had some really good stuff. Like he was has a great theme. And of course, he has a really great voice actor. His design is pretty good. It's just that
Clearly
they
influenced by Kratos once again.
yeah, and they didn't go as in depth with this story as they did with the previous two antagonists.
So I think 3 was just okay. It had a lot of good stuff in it. Had some bad stuff, obviously. I think another reviewer who shout out to the Nostalgia Critic, by the way, we mentioned him before. When he reviewed Kung Fu Panda 3, he mentioned specifically that 3 seemed to put more emphasis on comedy than the other two did. I can see that looking back.
And I think that's what they really focused on here in this. In the fourth one was comedy or
I
trying.
can't go that far. I cannot go that far.
I think it was the reason I'm saying it is because the director of Kung Fu Panda 4, Mike Mitchell, he was described in a Discord interview. I tried to send you the link to it, but it was the one of the I think the original director behind the movies, Stephanie Moss Stine. When I say sorry, Stephanie Moss Stine, who was the co-director, or at least for Kung Fu Panda 4 for a time. In this Discord interview, she talked about how like Mike was like the comedy guy, and where by Jack Black, where she was the one who brought the heart and the depth to it. But she was left the film, I believe. Like there was a lot in like Kung Fu Panda 4 that was originally planned by Mike and like certain people in DreamWorks that would have actually taken away from the this movie even more.
That's always
Like
hard when you're filming a movie and one of the main people leaves. It's like you can't match styles as good because of that.
yeah, it was like he was like I said more focusing on like slapstick comedy, like really more of the jokey stuff, like some of the stuff that really wasn't that great, like the fart joke that was in this movie with Poe.
I
And
thought that was funny. I'm not gonna lie because I knew it was coming. It still got a laugh out of me.
gotcha. It was he was more focused on like the comedy than anything else, and like he didn't want to go as in depth with certain characters in this film, the villain in this movie and Jin. Like he did not really want to give backstories to them apparently, and like they were added in like the last minute almost, or what backstories
You
we
could
got for
make
them.
the argument that less is more.
I just feel with like one of the reasons why Kai wasn't as good as he could have been was because he wasn't as well developed in his backstory as like Tai Lung and Shin. And it's just like here it's even like worse with the chameleon, but we'll get into that later on in the video. But I just bringing these points up here.
When you have people that leave mid movie, sometimes it could work, but it's an extreme rarity. Like I'm gonna give a weird example here that I know off the top of my head. Superman 2, the original one, the Christopher Reeve Superman series. Richard Donner, who directed the first one, he had a lot of disagreements with the producers, so he was booted off during Superman 2's production and was replaced with Richard Lester. And there are two other styles. You can clearly tell the scenes that Donner shot and that Lester shot. Again, classic movie. It's one of the best superhero movies of all time. But you can definitely tell two different people directed it. In terms of like the camera shots, the acting, everything was different, you could tell.
I think another thing here is actually the lead animator uh, on Kung Fu Panda 4 actually left after about a week in like the development and everything, and would not come back because of how he saw the story and the characters, like overall the whole project was going. Like very important people that could have really added a lot more to this film kind of left, like because of what certain ways the movie was being developed and everything, and they just didn't want to take part in it. But getting into like but we'll get into more of the stuff we have issues with later. Like I mentioned a little bit before about Jen not having as much of a backstory. The matter of her, like a lot of people saw this coming, was Jen was going to be the one who was going to be picked for the the next Dragon Warrior by Poe. I saw some things coming in this film and other things I didn't, which we'll get into a little bit. And
I think the main one of the main problems is that this film was so predictable. Like you can predict pretty much everything that's going to happen. Again, that's a minor nitpick. That's not always necessarily a bad thing. Like you could definitely tell where the first Kung Fu Panda movie was going, but it's still enjoyable to watch.
yeah,
This one, you're like, let's hit the check marks.
I think with this Jen, like I know a bunch of people have a problem with voice actress Aquafina and the character portrayal. I mean, to me, I don't.
I think it was perfect casting.
I mean, I don't have really many issues with it. I think it was more so like her being underdeveloped in some ways too. Like we don't get as much backstory into her, or like the way it's like its mystery isn't really like left up into like the same kind of like essence, I guess you could see with like Poe in the first film, because like Poe like says they're pretty similar characters with similar backstories. And though I think with Jin being the eventual pick, I don't necessarily think that was a bad idea. Like it brings up like the matter of like not always judging a book by its cover, which is like a part of like this
Metaphor for
franchise.
the series.
Yeah, and Jen being a a former thief and con artist and everything, and like it brings something that you wouldn't necessarily expect out of a traditional like hero or like idol heroic figure. But with Jen, we see that like there is a lot of potential with her, though I think like it could have been portrayed with her as like a lot of her tactics were like evasion and like letting others like there was like a lot of like dirty fighting and everything, but her growing up on the streets and everything, like she
Nothing
did
wrong with
what
that.
yeah, it was like doing what she needed to survive. And it's a matter of like having like someone who has like a different like background and a story and like a way of like surviving and fighting for themselves. It's brings something that like you don't see like as many with these her- usual heroes in like this kinds of stories go with. And I think having that different kind of like potential for a hero is definitely a big part of this franchise, because within the first movie, most of the characters, like if not all of them, did not see post potential except for a Master Oogway, of course,
I've
and
heard the
event.
argument that the more disciplined and high up they were, the more what's what I'm looking for? Hesitant to train him, the more disciplined and high up they were. Plus, they all learned in their own time. It wasn't like instantaneous.
Yeah, it's like Jen. She is not like kind of like Poe. She's not the like she. You don't usually you wouldn't maybe always think of her as like the typical kind of warrior thing. Like in like the first movie, like Shifu's like main pick for the Dragon Warrior ceremony selection was, of course, Tigress, because he thought, even though he didn't want to say it, that was who he was like thinking was the best suited, who was the best suited like a master for it. And
Yeah.
here with like Jin, like it's something that Shifu didn't expect, but Poe saw in her as the potential. Of course, we saw it like presented, however like effective it was. Is like up for like
Yeah.
individual perspective, and we can get into that later. But I think Jin, I think the species picked and the character portrayal, or at least the personality, and still underdeveloped story, though what we have is something that I think wasn't necessarily wasn't and isn't necessarily a bad thing for her character as the future Dragon Warrior.
I think this is the last part of the good stuff I have to say for this before we get to the bad stuff, which is honestly going to be a lot.
Yeah,
Again, maybe more for you, maybe more for me. The animation definitely was really good. I mean, the last two animated films I saw in theaters prior to this was Across the Spider Verse Part 2, which is an excellent film, and Puss in Boots 2: The Last Wish. This film as well had really good animation. I wasn't disappointed.
I think the animation in some ways was like it was okay. I don't know if I would like, admittedly, I don't know if I would put it like up like next to like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
I
Of
mean, that's
course,
a movie we should review.
yeah, at some point, like that's like one of the best like animated films that's like DreamWorks has come out with. Like easily on same, at least on similar tier with first two Kung Fu Panda movies, and I think it's probably the best of the Shrek franchise, at least to me personally. But
You're going to have a lot of people who disagree with you on that. Shrek 2 is one of the most beloved DreamWorks films.
admittedly for me, I've never been a fan of the Shrek movies as much, but that's my personal opinion. Like some are okay in some ways, but I'm getting a little off topic. But
I'll just add this. I want to add this as well.
mhm.
My favorite DreamWorks film, as well as my favorite animated film in general, is The Prince of Egypt, which was one of the first DreamWorks films ever made. That film was hand drawn, and it's so beautifully to see that hand drawn animation. It still looks impressive. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember some of it.
Hands down, my favorite animated film, without any doubt.
There was a lot of time and like effort put into the animation and the music and everything in that.
Plus, it updated the story of Moses and Ramesses in a really good way with modern writing, while still being true to the original story. Again, different movie. Probably talk about it at a later date. Let's get to the real dumpling on this review.
Yeah, the like not so good and no, just the really bad and
Just say bad. Just say bad.
yeah,
There's no
the
not so
bad.
good.
Th- this is to me the worst of the Kung Fu Panda franchise of the films.
I'm conflicted on that personally because three had a lot of slower moments.
I understand. It's just like there was a lot of inconsistencies in this movie in connection with the former ones. The continuity was kind of like not really followed through. Certain
Okay.
characters weren't as like they weren't true to themselves like they were in like the previous film, like Poe's biological father, Li Shan. Him being a scaredy cat was like that was kind of out of nowhere to me because in the backstory for Kung Fu Panda 2, we saw him literally jump in front of his family to like literally whack the boss wolf in the flashback, and then in the last film we saw him willingly fight the zombie Shifu with Mr. Ping. Like there was like at least if he was afraid, he did not show it. But whereas in this movie, he was just afraid for I don't know why.
No disrespect to Bryan Cranston. I'm sure he was did exactly what he was told to do. Because we know this is a very good actor in Bryan Cranston. He's been in Breaking Bad. He's been in that movie The Upside with Kevin Hart, which was a really good film. I'm sure he did exactly what he was told. I don't know if the writing was bad or he wasn't allowed to say anything about it. He seemed rather underused because this is again a great actor. He can be really funny. Give him good lines.
Yeah, I don't. I think, like I said, the director of this movie was really not really following along with the heart and like the spirit of this franchise a lot. He was more focused on, like I said, as in that interview, which I'll leave links to from
I couldn't read
YouTube.
it, it was too small.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like I said, the lady being interviewed, the former co-director, talked about how the main director of the movie was, like I said, focused too much on comedy. Like he wasn't really wanting to do backstory or character depth. Really, he was just wanting to do all the funny stuff without really getting into the true soul of
That's not a
this.
good idea.
Yeah, and the way and that's what really really tore this movie down. Like there's a lot of stuff that he wanted to do or he didn't want to do in this. Like thankfully some stuff didn't happen. Like in one I think in one part like he wanted to do actually like with someone based like someone on YouTube or Reddit, I can't remember which, like the guy wanted the director wanted it to have like actual like live action humans in the movie, like
What
someone
the?
yeah, someone on Reddit or YouTube, I can't remember, sorry, I can't remember their username, kind of said it would basically been like a reverse Roger Rabbit, I think. and
Oh,
like
oh.
uh, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but like I tried to very closely read and follow the the interview, and then there was also what is it like it was called and there he was also
Moving on from that
yeah
disturbing image.
yeah and he also did not want to do like really any backstory with Jin or the chameleon, like he didn't want to like give them like anything, no, like we didn't he didn't really want to like do much with them at all. There was some stuff done at the end, but most well they couldn't really add much more in because most of the animations were done and like the voice actress what read the lines that you had, I think. Like he like took away like he was trying to put so much into the movie or take so much away from it, like it took time away from the development of this movie. I honestly think they probably should have taken more time to like work and develop on this movie because like with like for you and me, like a big part of the one problem, especially as you've told me before, is the villain is the worst part of this like her motivations, like her characterization, were not.
Worst in the entire franchise.
Yeah, compared to Kai, Kai was still more.
Kai was bland, but at least I remember what he was after and
Yeah,
why.
yeah, he was more even though he was underdeveloped, he was still more developed and complex than the Chameleon was. Like you
They
talked
don't
to
even
me,
give her a name. You notice that? They don't even give her a name. She's just Chameleon.
and like, and you've mentioned this before, which I know people have talked about, like her motivation for her,
Please
like,
go ahead. Please, I want to hear this.
yeah, like you said that, and people have talked about this, was like she said, like she was turned away from every kung fu institution, academy because she was too small. I mean,
Hey!
and like they're like the shorts are like said to be the only like canon things tied with like the movies. I think some people, I think was said in the interview, like, but like we
Isn't
don't
Mantis? Can we get a comparison side by side of her and Mantis? Because I'm
like.
pretty dang sure Mantis is smaller.
Oh yeah, Mantis can fit in like a Poe's hand, and like
So could Chameleon, to be fair, but
but he's much smaller.
yeah,
And
get a screenshot of those two side by side in editing. See what we're talking about. Even in the world of its own logic, it doesn't make sense. Plus, I know I'm not having an unpopular opinion here, so I can definitely say this. You could have cut this villain out and you would have missed nothing. She can literally be replaced with anybody. She's that bland. She doesn't even do anything throughout most of the film.
like the other than like taking the kung fu of like the people she brings
Yeah,
back,
you
like the
explained the logic of that.
yeah, it was like one of the worst things she did. Other than that was like outside of like direct conflict with like Poe and everything, she kicked that one like bear criminal, like head of a, I think they said head of a crime family, like basically kicked him down the stairs, like pushed him down the stairs. My bad, just
She
pushed him
turned
down the
into an elephant,
stairs,
to be fair, but
but just pushed him like like one of the like she really only time that really she did like something really like intentionally like really bad was like throwing Poe off the cliff, but like we have like of course I'm gonna relate compared to like as I said the best villain in the franchise, Shin. He nearly succeeded in wiping out the Panda village, and then he intentionally destroyed his family's ancestral home.
he committed genocide. He's got a huge body count.
Yeah, and I mean,
You see him murder one of the wolves on screen, remember?
yeah, and that was his most loyal follower too. Like,
He
but
just didn't even hesitate when he disobeyed him. He just like, oh, really?
No.
yeah, and like just comparing these two, like of course it's one thing to compare them to the best, like her to the best villain in the franchise, but like,
But a
but
villain in the Kung Fu Panda movie series is one of the main things to focus on.
He's right.
of
A hero's
course,
journey is only as good as the villain. I'm sorry I'm interrupting here, but
no,
I freaking despise this villain.
yeah, and a part of like speaking true to like a story is like giving criticizing or speaking about certain characters and how good they are, or like how bland or like underdeveloped they are, and like the chameleon, like compare them like say to like now Tai Lung. Like Tai Lung's backstory is very rich and in depth, whereas hers we really don't get a backstory. We don't know where she
You get the
comes from.
notes. It's like the animators were slipped notes. Like, this is where she is. What do you mean, sir? Is she from? Ah, who gives a crap?
And like I said, that was the director's like thing. He did not want to include a backstory for her in this, and that's really a
That
big.
could have worked. That could have worked if they didn't say anything about like why she was rejected. All she could say is why she didn't even have to say that.
I don't know. Maybe it like she said after she was too small. She said she was too lowly. Like maybe instead of
That would work.
like
That would have worked.
instead of like the small thing, like the whole lowly thing, maybe like she could have focused on her like saying like the masters she went to were like from wealthier backgrounds and more like privileged backgrounds. They didn't want to treat
Stuck up.
someone like they didn't want to train someone who was too lowly, like so too lowly, or like not someone who is really
Like Cobra
deserving.
Kai. Like Cobra Kai from the Karate Kid movie.
And
That could have worked entirely. I would have bought that if like that was her whole motivation to wanting to be the best, is because she considered herself or was considered too lowly. That works as opposed to saying I was too small and literally sucking away the kung fu, which doesn't even work in its own reality.
her thing was that she was a sorceress, and they didn't really like explore like much for magic other than like her shape shifting and her
She doesn't do
absorbing.
anything with it. Couldn't she have used her sorcery to make herself a great kung fu warrior?
I don't know. Maybe it's like maybe.
They didn't give any limitations on the magic. They didn't say there were limits.
I mean, like I think with her is like maybe to her it was like maybe she wanted to earn it. I guess you could say like try, but she could never master it. Or like I'm like it's me trying to like create like a me like trying to create a backstory for a character that should have
You're
had
giving
a
her too much credit.
like like I said, I'm trying to find a reason for why she could have been better. Like, and it's just me personally. I'm not a like I'm not some like I'm not like the director, the former co-director that like left the film Stephanie. And I think with uh, I think with like the chameleon was there was like more they could have done with her, like the kung fu thing maybe.
Lord Shen didn't even have magical powers. He used strategy and mind games. I
And
don't even
he
think he was a real kung fu master. He just
uh,
did his.
I think he may have been taught by someone in the city when he was younger, and then like developed his skills on his own, maybe because
He's
like
nowhere near the level of Tai Long or Kai, though, is
oh
the
no,
thing. He uses strategy and mind games. He
and
uses what
he
he has to his advantage.
and he used his like he used weapons and cunning against because he was able to surprise Master Ox and Master Croc in the second movie. Because I don't well personally I don't think as like straight on lengthy battle he would have won that, but because of his cunning, his weaponry, and his like deception, he was able to like trick them until the master, what was it, Thundering Rhino, like basically cast his weapons aside and like said he was no match for them. And Shin agreed until he pulled out the like he got into the cannon and killed a rhino off screen. And it was because like the different characters like embodied like different aspects of like the conflict. Like Tai Lung, you could say like people mention this, Tai Lung represented like the physical like
Right.
threats. Shen embodied like the mental or psychological threat, and Kai embodied the spiritual or mystical threat. And
I have no idea what this chick is supposed to represent.
it,
Pride? Greed? I don't even think that works, though. I can't even say that.
but
Chameleon wants to stop our recording.
yeah, like I said, I don't have like upgraded soon, so we'll probably do this in more than one video, like we did in our Atomic Train video. But I think with the chameleon, like one thing instead of like she had to get like posed like staff of wisdom to like unlock the spirit realm.
That doesn't make sense either.
I think maybe instead of that, or maybe it's like one way they could have done it better was like maybe make her like a necromancer or something, like branch off into the different kind of magical threats.
Maybe?
I mean, that's just one idea I have. Like, I don't think.
Imagine if, say, Poe was tricked into opening the spirit realm door. Wouldn't that have been really creative if she's as smart as they say she is?
I think in the like I said, the interview that the former co-director had, like like she like the idea. One idea was like it involved like a vision Poe had of the chameleon kidnapping Shifu and like trying like for Poe to save him, but Shifu is still captured. Like I can't like I said, I can't remember every little
You're good.
detail about it, but there's a lot like chameleon could have like branched out into or been developed more, like maybe maybe she like was like maybe she once she unlocked the spiritual realm or something, like maybe her thing could have been was maybe she built up power to to destroy like the respected like kung fu masters that cast her aside, like using the strength and the abilities of the those who were cast aside or like hated by them and most of the society in China to use
I'm not
against them.
saying that I think we can agree that might not necessarily have worked, but it would have been more creative. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just really hate this villain. My friend pointed this out to me, and I didn't even think of this till he mentioned it. How was she able to pull some of these guys from the spirit realm? Because Shen was never shown to have done that because he died. He actually died, and Tai Lung was actually banished there. You can say that's actually canon. In fact,
Yeah,
there's a rumor that you can see his chi thing on Kai's necklace in the third movie.
I
Again,
think
that's not confirmed, but
I think someone said it. I think in the interview they said he was. I think I can't
it's a
remember,
rumor. It was never confirmed.
but I think it was Tai Lung on that. But that was the Easter egg that they probably should have explored, maybe. But
And
it's a
then in
whole.
three, Kai was physically destroyed from the spirit realm. So how are these guys who shouldn't be there getting brought back? You get my point, right?
Yeah,
Shen physically died in the real world.
yeah. Actually, in the interview that I remember, like Shin and Kai were actually brought in last minute into the film. Like they didn't get the voice actors weren't brought in or anything. They were literally added in
Fortunately,
minute into the movie. And like you said, Shin he wasn't banished in the spirit realm like Tai Lung was by Poe.
he
He
died.
literally
You see
he
it.
died. He died, and of course, in the interview it's mentioned like the spirit realm isn't the only like uh form or like location of the afterlife in this like fictional universe. It's just uh one place in the afterlife or another afterlife.
Oh yeah.
Uh, But that was for kung fu masters. But um, Shin wasn't a kung fu master, and he, like I said, wasn't banished. He literally died because his cannon fell on him, and Kai,
Kai was destroyed.
like like he was overwhelmed by Poe's chi, and because he was a spirit warrior, like his like spirit made flesh. Like I don't know how to exactly say it, but like you
However,
said,
they worded it
like
confusingly.
his essence, like you said, was destroyed or should have been destroyed, but he was brought back into this film. Like,
When you have two villains each respectively voiced by Gary Oldman and J.K. Simmons. Again, no disrespect to Tai Long, he's a good villain, but when you have two really well-known and distinguished actors and voice actors, like I said, Gary Oldman's one of my favorite actors of all time. It's like I want to see him back in the role because he part of
yeah,
what made Shen work was Gary Oldman doing the voice.
yeah,
A lot of people said, "How are we going to be intimidated by a peacock?" I want to imagine Gary Oldman took that as a challenge in the recording booth.
he probably did. And like Tai Lung's voice actor Ian McShane is also a household name, and like
He's okay. He's not the best, but I wouldn't say he's on the same level as Gary Oldman in terms of what he's done in his career, but he's good.
Uh, but Tai Lung to me, and I've talked about this with you, even though I don't think he's the best villain per se, that's still Lord Shin to me. But like Tai Lung is still one of the best like characters in the franchise. He's in my top three. My top three are Poe, Tai Lung, and Oogway. And Tai Lung is to me one of the best characters in the franchise. And I'll probably get into this more in the next video, but
I think that should be another debate. Like, guys, keep in mind, we're still going to do Logan versus The Dark Knight. If you guys really want to see us debate Lord Shen versus Tai Long, which I think would be a really interesting debate, I'd gladly sign on for that.
yeah, and I think Tai Lung, like the creators of the first Kung Fu Panda, like kind of did him dirty because like the original storyline for him was like he actually wasn't going to destroy the Valley of Peace. He was just going to go straight for the Dragon Scroll, and like they kind of took that away from him because they didn't want the audience to like sympathize with him. But a lot of people, including me, really do still sympathize with him. But here they screwed him over even more because he was
It's
given
insulting.
yeah, he was given so few moments because I thought like a big part of this film, like
They
I'll be
showed him
honest,
in all the advertising.
yeah, he was basically trailer bait, and like I fell for it easily
We
because
all
he's
did.
yeah he's what like I said, and like I thought he was going to be a big part of this story. I thought like he was going. I'll get into this more in the next video, but like I thought he was going to have a much bigger role in the story. I thought he was going to get an actual redemption arc. I thought there was been a lot of moments between him and
He did
Poe,
sort of, but
but
next
not.
video.
But like we talked about this, like if they're gonna give Tai Lung a redemption arc, they need to do it right. They don't need to do it like one off, like they did in this movie. Like you said, like they can't do it like with just like a couple of scenes and like and we're like,
I
oh
wasn't
shit,
personally in favor of it because I didn't think they do it right, and this movie really proved that point.
yeah, they did
I
not do
should
it
have been
right.
satisfied with that, but I'm not.
I'm not either. I honestly left the theater like fuming because, like I said, he's one of my favorite characters, and they really screwed him over, especially in this film, even more than they did in the first movie, which was still kind of substantial. But uh,
Same for Shen and Kai. They barely get any screen time. You can tell they were shoehorned in last minute because, I mean, in all the advertising, you pretty much see that the chameleon is taking all these master's
yeah,
abilities. It's just clearly there to fill in the scenes. There's no passion.
and they used Tai Lung to get people back into it because, like I said in the interview, that lady Stephanie, the former co-director, said they needed to bring him back and do his story right, and I guess the main director Mike just didn't care. Like he like cut away so many possibilities. But we're gonna have to
Next
stop.
video,
Yeah,
guys.
we'll get
Next video.
into the next video. Uh, I want to once again thank my friend Nate for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.
Let's keep ripping this thing apart.
Mm.